Let it go. Put it in God's hands and have faith. I know letting go is one of the hardest things one can do. We often hold on to relationships, friendships, past, hurts and mistakes and guilty failures and regrets. But we must let it go and trust God that He has something better. Often at times, this is how our lives look like. We're holding on to something which is so much amazing, great, we love it, we're comfortable with it, we're attached to it. But what God has for us is so much bigger, is so much greater, and so much better. And in order to receive that, you'll have to make that faith move in your life. To receive that so much better, so much greater, and so much bigger that God has for you, you'll have to learn to let go. And now this is a thing about God. God will tell you the promise, but God won't always show you the promise. Now open up your Bibles with me to 2 Corinthians 5, verse 6 to 7. It says, "Therefore we are always confident and know that as long as we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord. For we live by faith and not by sight." God says we live by faith and not by sight. So you don't see the promise, but you trust the promise giver. And you gotta make that faith move in your life. To receive and to go to the next level, it requires you to make that faith move in your life. And for that, you'll have to put down those relationships. You'll have to put down those friendships, those regrets, those guilties, and those pains, and everything that you're holding on to. It requires you to put that away, to put that down, to let it go in order to receive what God has for you is so much greater, so much bigger, and so much wonderful. And now this is tricky. Often at times, like the Israelites, when they were delivered, they were released from the slavery. There's a period of time, it is called the waiting period of time. And this is where it gets hard for people, because often at times we think that when we let go of something, God's going to be like, hey, here you go. But that's not how our God works. Often God makes sure when we release, when we let go of something and make that faith move in our life, He makes sure that is our hearts prepared for it. Are we strong enough to hold? Hold it. Just like this. A lot of us are carrying our past just like that. A lot of us are carrying those relationships. A lot of us are carrying those pains, those guilties, those regrets, and so much failure. And thinking that this is all what God has for me, this is what God has for me, just thinking all that in a circle. But that's not what God really has for you guys. Sometimes we just have to let go of what we're holding on to. Sometimes we're just few moves away to receive what God has for us. Sometimes it's just one move, one faith move to change everything in your life. And a lot of you, I don't know what you're holding on to. I don't know what you're going through. I know that some of you are holding on to something else, and God has something else for you, and you're confused between that. I do not know what that is, but that just takes one faith move. One faith move to change everything. But remember, in order to receive God's immeasurable blessing. But the question is, do you trust Him? Do you trust Him enough to surrender the known securities of your life for the unrevealed mysteries of God's blessing? Do you trust Him? Do you trust Him? This is the question here. Do you trust Him in that faith move? Do you trust Him enough to surrender the known securities of your life for the unrevealed mysteries of God's blessing, to follow God's calling? It will require you to surrender the good things in life for the better things that God has for you. And that requires one faith move. I don't know, my friend, what you're going through. I don't know what you're holding on to. I don't know what's that burden that you have. But remember, God has so much better for you. You're not alone. You're not alone in this fight. God is with you. Do not lose your faith. Let it go. Leave it in God's hands and always have faith.